Hey loves, it's A back on your screen with another one. You are tuned into a Patreon exclusive. I wish that the first one of the year was on a lighter note. I'll try to keep it light as possible. I was tearing up when I did the public version of this video, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. Considering that we're going to get even more detailed, more personal in this one as we do with the pods. It probably will happen, let's be real. But as you can tell from the title, we're going to talk about the lessons I learned from my auntie. The reason why I'm talking about this today, well, if you're part of the Patreon family, you already know my auntie passed mid-March. Her birthday was May 4th, and being now that it is June, almost mid-June, it is just insane that time stops for nothing, but it's just been, it hasn't been slow, but it hasn't been fast, and since she passed, it's just been weird. So in an effort to commemorate some of the many lessons I learned from her, I wanted to make this video and share with you in hopes of helping you on your authentic way. The public one, we focused on love, money, and sense of self in that order. This one, we might dabble in those three, but we're going to focus more intentionally on the other 6 pillars of life, which are, if I can remember them. I miss the days of being able to take notes, but I can't even see my own writing anymore. But it would be career, personal development / passion, finance, which we already did, mind, body, spirit, we're family, friendships, intimate relationships. Okay, we got the 9. So which one should we start with this time? Again, I'm trying to think of like how to keep it light, because if I'm going to tear up, it's going to be at the end of this video. We're not trying to start this off with the waterworks. Oh, we'll do spiritual. Why not? As you guys may already know, I used to be heavy into the law of attraction. Can you guess who got me into that lifestyle? It was my Auntie Amanda. Although I am not a proponent of that at all. Put it this way. Law of attraction seems to work for a certain prototype, a certain person who, based off of perception, life was working out for them already. Like, don't tell me that the law of attraction applies to those who are halfway across the world dumpster diving, or that people who have diagnoses as disease and disorders manifested that in their life. Like, I can't sit right with that. So as much as it is the good of like, I dreamt of this car, buying this yacht, and I got it. When it comes to like the uncertainty and unfairness in the world, I just can't vibe with LOA. But for a long, long time, I did. Almost daily, I would talk with Auntie Amanda about it. She gave me many things to read and see, including The Secret, The Power of Now, What the Blink Do We Know, things about Joe Dispenza and Esther Hicks and just William Dyer and so many names. Like, the fact that I still remember this stuff is crazy to me. And although I don't necessarily agree with the ideology of law of attraction, I still believe some of the sentiments. Surprise, surprise. I think it's very important to allow your cork to flow. And saying out loud now sounds insane to me, but I used to always say that. My auntie would always say, how can you enjoy your life in the future if you're not enjoying it now? I believe in gratitude. I don't believe in toxic positivity or toxic gratitude where you're telling yourself to be grateful for something when you don't feel like it. If you don't feel like it, don't do it. You're just gonna have a horrible time with yourself. But there's something to be said about deciding to look around and realize that we created this life, essentially. In that creation, the things that have come to us that we've willed and wanted and the things that we don't, all have the ability to play a part in our purpose. It doesn't necessarily mean that it happened for a reason. Again, if you believe everything happens for a reason, you can let me know down below why that is. I definitely don't. There's something there when it comes to being able to manage your emotions. And there's something to feeling good at your current situation so that when the circumstances improve, you can enjoy that too. As far as spirituality goes, she was raised Catholic, I was raised Baptist. I think them Catholic people are too strict. That's just my 2 cents. The idea is that we are followers of Christ, and in that it's to lead with love first. And I've learned a lot about leading with love first through her generosity and her compassion for not just myself, not just for her children, her family, but for so many people. At her funeral, it was just, I don't want to say overwhelming because I don't think that's the correct word, but it was just, I was in awe to see the volume of people and feel the love that was present in that room. And I wish she was there to experience it. I mean, she is in spirit, but I wish she was here in body to see that she impacted all these people and left an impression on them. Although Catholic, she was also open to different methodologies. And I think that's why I became open to the idea of Buddhism and this idea that we have these human experiences, we are spiritual beings, and essentially everything that we experience in this life can be used, if we want it to improve the inner workings of ourselves. We had countless conversations on the topic of being able to sit in what is the stillness of the present moment, realizing that the power is now quite literally not just the title of an Eckhart Tolle book, acknowledging that whatever you believe and you don't believe is your truth. Now that I'm speaking with you, there's so much with spirituality. I almost want to make 9 separate videos, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stay on track and just keep this short and sweet. I learned a lot from her about having conversations with God. You know, a lot of religious denominations kind of have you separated, like here's you and here's God. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, but the idea of having a relationship with God and to grow with God and to go to God when you need things is something that not only my Auntie Amanda, but my mom and my grandma also instilled in me. And it's something that edifies me. A lot of people ask where my strength comes from or how I stay calm in certain situations. It's God. It's God. Yeah. Next topic is body. What my aunt taught me about the body is the body keeps a score, which again is another title of a book, in the sentiment that a lot of what we experience in our lives from our childhood to present, we've internalized. And we can literally find ways to release the pain and problems, which I should make a separate video about. We have to be very cognizant that at any given time, our body is giving us cues about what we really feel about in the moment. Our mind might be thinking, because it goes into overload, especially if you're an overthinker. But when we take the time to tap in to our somatic system, we can realize that the truth is there. There's a reason why there's sayings like, I felt it in my gut. When you feel it in your gut and you know something's not right, you actually get a queasy feeling in your stomach. Or when you have a hot temper, you actually feel warm. These are not just sayings. These are actually definitions and descriptions of what it feels like to have emotional reactions and responses in your body. She helped me tap in and tether to these things so that I could anchor to myself and be more authentic with myself. The mind. This is going to be a long section because we spent years talking daily about the power of the mind, the strength of the mind playing games on you. First thing I can think of at the top of my head was something she said maybe a decade or so ago. She said the subconscious is kind of like a system running in the background. You know, like you have your iPhone and all those things you swipe up, the apps you close. We have thoughts every day that are like these apps that we need to close, things we've told ourselves. And another thing she said to me in the last 5-6 years was that there are narratives that we've told ourselves to keep our lives being the same. I've repurposed that in my Patreon pod. I gave credit to her back then by saying that there's a story we tell ourselves because we want it to be true. And I say that with respect to the highs and the lows of our life. Sometimes we tell ourselves we can't do better, we don't deserve better, we ain't ish, because it serves a purpose of fueling this subconscious story we have. Other times we tell ourselves we're worthy, or we should have, or why didn't this happen, or I'm so happy, I deserve this, I earned it. And whether or not it's true, it's something that we continue to tell ourselves to feed and fuel into that narrative. There is so much to be learned when you sit with yourself and you realize the amount of stories and thoughts that you have on the daily says so much about where you're at in your state of mind. I don't even remember what the specific conversation was when that was brought up, but I know I felt a way. I think it had to do with 2 scenarios. I was talking to her about work. I didn't like my job at the time. And I also had a conflict with a friend, which I can't even begin to get into because, again, this video is going to be long. And if I get into every detail, you guys will be here all day. With both of those situations, I was sharing my side of the story, but also letting her know, like, oh, I should have stood up for myself in this case. Or, oh, I should have done this in the past to avoid this in the present. Always trying to be accountable over here. She stopped me, and that's when she said, you know, we have these stories we tell ourselves to keep continuing the life that we're living. This is the idea of staying comfortable, stagnant, right? And it irritated me at first. I don't want to have friends that show up in the way that they have. Like, I've been betrayed in so many ways you guys don't even want to know. And I don't want to work at a place where I don't feel respected or valued and I'm underpaid and I can't live the life I want to lead. I realized, though, that the mindset story I was telling myself was I couldn't do any better because I'm losing vision. So I should just be grateful for the backstabbing friends I have at the time, or I should just be grateful for the job that I have that's taking advantage of me because it's serving and feeding this story that I can't do any better and I should just be grateful because I'm visually impaired, which is not the truth. That is not the actual truth of what is happening. We all deserve to have the best in life, and sometimes we are living with limitations, but that doesn't mean we have to live in stagnation. Trio 1 done. Mind, body, soul. Should we discuss career stuff or interpersonal relationships? Let's do career first, because I was going to say I got some tea to spill with the interpersonal relationships, so we'll leave that for the last bit. Let's do passion. My auntie believed that we all came here with a purpose and a passion, and we actualize in our life. The idea of, like what Sinead said, is you don't get to leave until you get it right. This sentiment of, again, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and during this experience, whether you believe you go to heaven and you're done, it's lights out and there's nothing, or if you ascend and transcend and reincarnate again, whatever your ideology is, this present path has a purpose for you and those that are on the path with you. My auntie spoke so much about the idea of living your life to find your path and your purpose, and using that to push you through the good and the bad. You don't have to necessarily love what you do, but you should love some aspect of your life. And whether your job is something that pays for your passion, or if you happen to work a job that you love and is also aligned with your passion, acknowledging that and being aware of that. Tethering on Christianity, but also a little bit on the like new age-ish. She had this ideology that we're all like uniquely and infinitely made to have an experience and have a purpose, like significance to us being here. Actualizing that is part of the process. It is also Christian sentiment to create, because ideally when we create, we are working from a God place. God in essence is the major creator. So being someone that is passionate and is creating an essence, and that could be, of course, clearly art, but it could be engineering, it could be writing, it could be saving lives as a specialist. Whatever it may be, the passion of creating and pouring into something outside of yourself is very important for an edifying life. But the long-term goal is picking a career path that shifts and changes with you, that speaks to your soul in a way that you don't feel like you're clocking in or logging in, or if you're an entrepreneur, staying up late, doing things that don't make you feel alive inside. She was very big on that. As an entrepreneur, she was also very big on hustling, but not like this side hustle, stay up all night kind of hustling, but more so like working smart. Let's just put it this way. I was in like the 8th grade. We went to Indigo, which is a bookstore here, and she told me to pick a book, not on entrepreneurship, but on something that would help me sell something. So I decided, I'm gonna pick up a book that comes with like a ring of beads. And basically, I think I just threw it away like a year ago, actually. It's like a book that teaches you different ways of making beaded rings. And I still have some of those beaded rings. She's like, you have to sell them at the school, write out a list. What's the inventory? What are your invoices going to look like? What is your price range? I'm like, I'm 14. I just want to make these pretty things. She's like, no, how much did it cost to buy the book with the beads? How much time will it take to make? And how much can you recoup? How much is your time worth? Was the lesson she was teaching me in the 8th grade. Crazy. The importance of whether you're an entrepreneur or you work a 9 to 5, taking pride in what you do and being intentional with what you do. We can talk about money a little bit. We talked about it quite a bit in the public episode. So to keep this one on the short and sweet side, I would say story time. When I was 23, I went to her and I'm like, okay, auntie, I got my 20-something K. Can we go get a condo together? And she's like, I had to fix myself to go to the bank by myself. And he's like, oh, you actually have like a good amount of money, not enough for a down payment, but you're doing better than a lot of people twice your age. So keep at it. Also, hostessing is not going to cut it because you don't make enough money on paper. So come back to me when you get a full-time job. A couple of years later, then auntie's like, oh, we should get a house in Windsor. And I'm like, Windsor? Yeah, it'd be a good legacy for your mom and your brother, and it'd be good stable income for you as you're losing sight. And I'm like, I don't feel right about it. And I decided not to do it for reasons I can't even begin to get into right now. But the idea that we had this full circle moment where she trusted me enough to want to go in on a financial idea, but also this ability to see that I had this desire to own something in my lifetime. I don't yet. Hopefully, eventually, one day I will get on that. Working some other things out right now. When it comes to money, she was always forward thinking, always thinking about making money work for you because you've already worked for it. And this sentiment of being open-minded, but still being responsible. I remember there was times where she's like, I love that you're able to spend money on yourself. I'm like, is that slight shade? And she's like, no, honestly, because I have not reached that point where I feel comfortable doing it. And she also had 3 kids, so priorities, right? But she admired that I spent money to indulge on myself, whether it was to go on trips or to buy nail polish back when I could see them. Now I get my nails done, which, I mean, sometimes I'm like, damn, I paid that much for this. But this ability for her to show me that money is not just money we make, it's a relationship, and it says a lot about how we see ourselves. It just says a lot about how she encapsulated and visualized the world. I'm just so grateful for these conversations in hindsight. 3 of 3, last 3. So relationships. We're talking about family ties, friendships, and romantic relationships. The fact that I'm laughing, you already know where this is going to go. And actually, I don't feel like I'm going to cry at this point. Sometimes she had to say things that snapped me out of it real quick. So first things first, let's talk about family. That's something we didn't discuss on the public pod. Specifically because, I mean, I'm not putting my family business out there like that. So, as you know, if you listen to the pods for a little while, or if you're new, I'll let you know that growing up, I didn't have the best relationship with my parents. I had a lot of questions about why I was here and if I was loved and things of that nature. And my auntie was the first family member, alongside with my great-grandma actually, that I just felt genuine and unconditional love. It wasn't until I was a little older and great-grandma was like, unconditional love doesn't exist. And I'm like, whoa, lady. Keep these comments to yourself for a little bit. Let me just live my Disney princess life for a little longer. Both my great-grandma and my auntie were very much present in my life, and I was able to speak to a lot of the experiences I had without feeling chastised or overlooked. One of the craziest things she said to me that always sits with me, especially now given what's going on in my family life, as much as a parent is going to parent a child parents the parent. And to be more esoteric, what she actually said is that children come specifically and divinely to teach parents things. And when she said that, I was like, this is so profound. I think she had her first son at that point. She hadn't had the other 2 yet. The way I took it back then when I was 19 versus now at 35 is like worlds apart. Like my mind continues to blow at the thought of that, especially, like I said, given the circumstances. I don't even know how to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound shady, but you know, growing up, parents will say like, why did I have you? And I'd be like, why am I here? I love my parents dearly. Like, I'm so grateful for the sacrifices my mom made. I'm grateful for the things that my dad showed me and the ways that my stepdad has shown up for me. You don't even understand. I don't even have words to explain the level of gratitude that I have for the 3 of them. Realizing that as much as they've been sent to parent me, I've been sent with all my little quirks and qualms to show them themselves too. It's a give and take. Like, growing up, I just always thought like, this is my parent, this is who I have, but I'm also somebody's child, and I'm also having my experiences and showing them something about life. When we think about this ideology that parent to child, child to parent, we're both kind of doing the same thing, it's just an age difference, it's comical to say the least, but honestly, when we take that aside on a spiritual and esoteric basis, it's just the most beautiful cyclical thing. She used to say like, sometimes you have a child to bring out in you your own problems or things that you never resolved at the age of 5, or to show you something about yourself that you wouldn't have known if you weren't looking in your child's eyes. And I just, wow, mind blown. I don't have kids yet, and I'm like terrified because I'm like, what are you going to show me about myself? I always sat with that, and I thought that was such a simple but just such a significant way to say that parents and children, that's a bond that's just eternal and enduring and just has so much there. Relationships. I already said a lot about this in the public one, so we'll do a little story time. She said, you go to the grocery store, yeah? I said, yeah. When you go to pick a fruit, aren't you looking for the best fruit? You know, you pick up your orange, your apple, your pear, your pineapple, you look at it, you smell it, pull the spikes. Do you know pulling the spikes of pineapple, if it really pulls, it's fresh? She let me know that I was picking a bruised apple. And at first I was like, what are you saying? She's like, I have nothing against the boy. It's just, it's obvious based on what you've shared and what I've come to know, because she met him, that he has a lot of growing to do. And it's nothing against him. It's not to say that there's something wrong with him, because we are all essentially bruised. But what she actually said to me is, you're bruised fruit too. And you don't go looking for bruised fruit when you're already bruised. You try to find someone that is less bruised to complement you while you're healing yourself. To go out and seek the same, to be in the same situation, or to go and feel the same feelings you felt in your familiar relationship. We all do it. It's the whole subconscious system running. But when we are consciously aware and we're choosing wisely who we're going to partner with, we choose from a place of like, you've got some work to do. It's nothing against you, no shade, because we all got things to do. But what I have going on, I can't take that on. Wish I listened sooner, but hey, we're here, we are now. With all of that said, the idea of the bruised fruit and picking someone that is at least working on being better instead of staying the same is very important, because choosing the wrong person can be your biggest demise, and that is no lie. Probably subconsciously, intentionally, purposely made it last is friendships. We had a lot of conversations about friendships. I have had my fair share of pruning in my friendship garden. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. There's been times when I've been on the phone with her or seen her face to face, and I'm like, I can't believe person A did me this way. And she's like, but they've always been that way. She's always quoted Maya Angelou's when you see them, believe them type of sentiment, or when someone shows you who they are, they're giving you a glimpse of who they can really be. You'll really know someone and their intentions when they're angry. You have to see it for what it is. I mean, I'm legally blind, but I've made too many excuses over time for not seeing people for who they are. In friendships and relationships, people have said things, and at first I'm like, am I tripping? Am I overthinking? Am I too sensitive? And sometimes I may very well be, but there's other times, honestly, where that was my intuition speaking to me. And there's times where I've shared with my auntie and she was never wrong. That's one thing I can say. When it comes to my past friendships, she was never wrong. People who have thrown shade or not shown up when I needed them to, the fact that I've gone through some crazy critical situations this year, that says a lot. Most people don't even know they're doing you dirty or doing you wrong because they're just doing what works for them, which is another thing she spoke on conversations with Auntie Amanda about the state of my friendships, about feeling like I never really connected to a lot of people in my 20s. Spoke a lot to my disconnection to self. Because there were some really questionable characters in my life, like people who I can't even begin to get into the stories of some of the things that were done. But I also enabled the foolishness. It really does come back to self-love. Having difficult conversations and her calling me out with love helped me decide that I'd rather be solo dolo and have a few lonely nights, some lonely days wandering the waterfront contemplating things, than spending my free time in the company of people who weren't actually there for me. Few of the many lessons I learned from my auntie. I would be here all day if I were here to say everything that she taught me. And sometimes in my mind, I'm just in my head a lot. Something will just pop into my head. I'm like, remember Auntie said that? Or, oh yeah, she warned me about this. Or yeah, she said this would happen. Like when good things are happening in my life, I'm like, this is what Auntie wanted for me. A lot to sit with. A lot to process. It's going to be a long journey. It's going to be a lifetime of healing from the hurt of losing her. And I'm here to embrace it. There's nothing else I can do. I can't bring her back. I can't go back in the past. If I learned anything from loss in general, whether it's losing her, my dad, or my vision, or other things that we can't get into, it's in a place that doesn't exist anymore. And if I want to feel her presence and have her live on and feel a sense of solace, I live on through the lessons she's taught. And that's why I wanted to impart and share them to you. Hope you guys took something away. And until next time, stay blessed, stay authentic.